Roll! And write! I'll wait while you try and think of 2 more exciting verbs. But not for too long, because it can't be done. Today, the world is in a resurgence of roll and write games in which players use some kind of a random generator in the center of the table, whether that's cards or dice, to make permanent progress on their own little sheet. The roll and write game you've most likely heard of is Yahtzee, but to see everything this genre can be, I would point you towards our reviews of the terrific Welcome To, or the still more terrific Railroad Inc. In this video, myself and Tom and Matt are going to be showing you no less than 5 of our favorite new-ish roll and writes. That's right, 5 reviews in one video, and we're going to open with Copenhagen roll and write, because 2 things I've not been able to do since 2020 began are coping or hugging. Provided to us by publishers Queen Games, this is a pocket-sized version of a full-size board game called Copenhagen, in which players had to use tiles to slowly build characterful buildings in the Danish city of Copenhagen. I really like the full-sized game of Copenhagen, but the roll and write is super similar, super slim, and super affordably priced. And I think it's great. On your... That's staying in the review. On your turn, you roll these lovely dice, which let you pick one of these shapes to draw, with white results being wild. And here you're playing something like Satan's Tetris. Starting from the bottom and working your way up, you're getting points for filling rows, big points for filling columns, but also each shape you draw must contain 1 X, and you're gonna get double points for each of your rows and columns that has no X's in it. Very much in vogue at the minute for board game designers to have players use shapes to try and fill a grid. This is one of the better ones, and it's also one of the more rewarding ones. With you feeling instantly like you're getting somewhere, but also like you're screwing up from the very first shape you draw. Anyway, that's just when it's your turn. When it's not your turn, you get to pick one of the colors that the main player isn't using to make a notch in one of these sort of power-up bars. Every plus you hit lets you enlarge the building blocks you're drawing if you choose to draw that color on your turn, but every star you hit unlocks a special power. Like getting to re-roll dice, or draw a shape without an X in it, or draw a shape that somebody has already used. Oh yes, these shapes are limited. Get your Copen skates on Hagen. This is still a very breezy, relaxing game. It's a particularly easy game to finish and say, oh, let's just play again, let's play again. And yet it is still tricky, it's still taxing. My final thoughts on Copenhagen? I think they should have called it a roll and write game, right with the W cross, because this is just a game that gets everything right. The sheets look nice, the boxes are nice size, the dice, these big wooden dice feel absolutely fantastic. And also, when you look at your sheet at the end of a game, you're gonna either love or hate all of the decisions you've made. And that, for me, is what defines this genre. The only thing really that separates roll and writes from other games is you're able to look down at any point and see every decision you've made in the game. And for a good roll and write, for me, that has to be an interesting feeling. I have to look at this and go, oh, that's great. Oh, I love myself for deciding that. What was I thinking there? And at the end of a game of Copenhagen, your sheet is going to be clammy with compromises. And that conversation you're having with your past self, and occasionally your friends, those lucky devils, is gonna be that much more interesting for it. So that's the first game down. Next up is Tom, I think. I hope he doesn't have any spicy, controversial takes for you kids.
I've got a spicy, controversial take for you kids, and that's that I think roll and writes aren't that good when you play them as a group, and I prefer them solo. Is that sad? Matt and Quins would say yes, but I think that is fine and perfectly reasonable, because if I want to play a game alone that doesn't involve staring at a screen after a long, terrible day of editing nonsense, then these are right here for me, and I like them. In fact, I think that roll and write games are so specific to this mode of play that every single one of them should come with a cool tray to play them in bed with. And to that end, you can now buy an official shut up and sit down roll in bed tray for just $73.98. You can actually play all kinds of games with them. Look at this beautiful shot of El Dorado. It's a gorgeous thing that you can have in your home. And with that scintillating preface, let's move on to Super Skill Pinball 4K, the perfect roll and write in this list if you're lonely like me. Have you ever wanted to play pinball, but in the comfort of your own home on 4 separate tables inside a tiny little box in a strategic board game roll and write format? If you answered yes, then welcome to the club. Let me tell you this. Super Skill Pinball 4K has given me a mere pinball schlub, a vocabulary with which to describe pinball that few other games can offer. In fact, this game makes you say things like
back glass
with worrying frequency. That is to say, that Super Skill Pinball 4K will make you feel like pinball. Here's how it works. Pull a laminated sheet, a pen, 2 dice, and a couple of shiny pinballs from the box, and get yourself comfortable. Place the pinball at the top of the sheet and roll. Roll until your hands ache and your eyes bleed, because you're going to beat your high score, and you're going to beat it tonight. Here's the thing, the mechanics of Super Skill Pinball 4K are much simpler than its eyesore of a title might suggest. Roll both dice, choose one of the numbers, cross off a box of that value from the layer you are currently on or lower. If that causes you to fill in a whole thing, you'll score that area and erase it. In most cases. Once your options get slimmer, the ball might hit the bottom layer betwixt the flippers. Filling in one of those boxes will ping your ball back to the top of the board, ready to score and fill again and again until you get to the bottom of the board with no boxes that match your dice. What happens then? You'll lose that ball. If that happens 3 times, you're out, and your scoreboard will be updated with your new score. Was it higher than last time? You better hope so, or you'll be writing garbage numbers in those columns that make your super high scores look like dog dirt flukes. Let me give you a whistle-stop tour of all the mechanics that are contained inside this beautiful box, as if Jeff Engelstein was an over-generous Santa Claus cramming presents into stockings after being unceremoniously fired for Skill shots are often rewards for filling in a certain part of a table and allow you to instantly change your dice to that number at any given moment. Nudging is a 3-use ability that lets you change a number, but then if the difference between the 2 dice in your next roll is smaller than that number, you're instantly gutted. And I also forgot to mention that this box comes with 4 separate tables, each with their own neat mechanics on top of that. Carnival is the first board you'll play on, teaching you the ropes with a few little gimmicks, like a test your strength that has to be filled in order, and this absolutely horrible clown. Cyberhack bumps things up a notch, introducing runs. This is a minigame where you add the dice together and fill in that many pure, undiluted points, but enter the difference between the dice into this impending doom track. If that gets filled, you dump any points that you'd gained so far in your run. It's a horrible push your luck minigame contained within the pinball table where the odds can be skewed in your favour by grabbing a few hacks along the way that will give you an opportunity to re-roll unfavourable dice. Dragon Slayer is my favourite of the tables and gives you a list of spells to cast that'll let you do all kinds of mad combo-filled nonsense. Gain enough XP and you'll level up, gaining access to new spells that'll aid you in slaying the dragon and claiming its hoard. There is so much going on here and so many ways to navigate this table that I don't even know where to start, but if it's all a bit much, you can just squash this rat. Disco Fever is the final table, and this one has you playing on 2 separate tables at once in a move called Disco Pinferno. Rolling doubles will advance the boogie bonus from Funky Chicken and Electric Slide to the Hustle, and what happens when you score the boogie bonus? You reset to Hokey Pokey, of course. Honestly, the best part of this table is the absolute nonsense that it makes you spout on the regular. However, all the twists and turns introduced by all these boards and their weird little happenings are nothing in comparison to Multiball. Multiball is a golden mechanic. Multiball is what makes this game magic. Multiball is the root of all evil. I love Multiball. Picture this. You've filled in a lot of your board. You are low on spaces and high on stress. Your flippers are almost completely full. But then you spy a space. A space that, when filled, will activate Multiball. Here, the devil himself comes to you with a bargain. You get double points. but twice as many pinballs on the table. Your margin for total pinball mastery is increased, but your defeat is twice as likely. The odds are not in your favour, but think on the points. Quinn said the following in his roundup of Super Skill Pinball 4K for his solo print and play video.
So you're frequently fretting about whether to drop the ball right down to the paddles immediately just to knock it back up while you can.
This is a shining example of what is known as a coward's move in Super Skill Pinball 4K, and it's actually banned in the rulebook. You can see it right here. Letting that ball drop is never an option. You're gonna keep it bouncing, and you're gonna keep it bouncing for as long as you possibly can. Because for every failure that you make due to your hubris, in another timeline, you might succeed. In another timeline, that ball has just scored you double, triple, mega points. In another timeline, you're a pinball god. To put an end to this increasingly rambly and incoherent segment, I would absolutely say that I recommend Super Skill Pinball 4K, but maybe only if you want to play it solo. I've only played this game on my own. I've really not played it with multiple people, so your mileage may vary. But if you're the kind of person that really enjoys ticking off achievements and filling in high scores, then this is absolutely the game for you. Look, I got a score of 538. And I only cheated once.
I'm here now to inject myself smoothly into the middle of this video, like one of those factory machines that puts cream inside of biscuits. And immediately, I'm going to derail it with a game that arguably just shouldn't be here. Wasn't in the script. Roman Roll, provided by PSC Games and designed by David Tersey and Nick Shaw. Yes, you've got chunky whiteboards and coloured pens to mark things off with, but the internet has pretty resolutely decided that this is more of a resource management, non-competitive kind of Euro game rather than a true roll and write game. As determined by science, the DNA of a roll and write game is having collective choice of a shared set of options, but sometimes those options are drafted individually. It will feature dice and or sometimes cards. And finally, in roll and write games, you don't have resources that you collect and spend, apart from when you have special powers that you can use. What is a roll and write game? Have we covered that yet? All right, to paraphrase Quinn's from about 8 minutes ago, players use some kind of random generator in the center of the table to make permanent progress on their own little sheet. So perhaps the cardinal sin of Roman Roll then is this middle board that players all write on at different times to interact and compete with one another. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of the appeal of what we think of as roll and write games is this chance to just sit and carefully try and solve our own personal puzzle as well as we can. And in a way, I guess that makes roll and write games a distillation, a lo-fi version of a traditional Euro game. And so maybe Roman Roll isn't an aberration in the world of roll and write games. Maybe it's an inevitable conclusion. I feel like I need a pipe for this. What, could we put a pipe in post, like a pipe, Sherlock? I've got so much appreciation for what this is trying to do as an experiment, you know? It's trying to condense down one of these giant boxes and going, hey, look, to what extent can you take away all of those little cubes, all of these things, and still retain the essence of what a kind of economic builder Euro game can be? And the extent to which it succeeds is fabulous. You know what? Every time you get a piece of wood or a brick, just writing W or B or S for stone, and then just crossing it out when you've used it, yeah, it doesn't have the thematic oomph of kind of having maybe brown cubes and blue cubes. But you know what? Every time I play a Euro game, I forget. And I just say, I'm going to spend a white cube and a brown cube. So not a big deal. And, you know, if you can just remove everything else and instead just have these big, chunky plastic dice, well, I'm kind of there for that. Now, it's not a success in every regard. There's a whole system whereby you're building things on Rome, and you do that by making the shapes on the map and then writing the initials of the building on, which is not very readable and a bit rubbish. Also, the presentation of the game is a bit Billy Basic, with Roman gods that fail to look powerful and severe and instead just look hilariously miserable. This one's sad about a bowl, this one's sad about an orb, this one's sad he got kicked out of the band. But quibbles aside, this is solid and fun. The fact you've got like 95% of the rules of the game written on these gigantic player boards, it's really useful, particularly because the manual is awful. So anyway, listen, I wouldn't recommend this game in favour of any of the other games in this video. If you said, hey, do you want to play a roll and write? And then you got this out, it's not the same. It's a different thing. But gosh, what a delightful different thing. The fact that this is a Euro game that you can set up in moments and pack away in moments. No bags of cubes, no fiddling around. And in a world of deluxe editions and game trays and quick setup systems, there's a lot to be said for just having less stuff. And if that means getting really chunky dice, I'm in. But now it's time for another game. Oh, it's in the other room. It's Cartographers, provided by Thunderworks Games and designed by Geordie Aiden. And I've got a lot of time for this fantasy nonsense scribbly map game. Each game of Cartographers is split into 4 seasons, like the pizza. A season ends when you flip over a card that pushes the total of the numbers in the top onto or over the length of that season. They get shorter as you go through the game, with winter being the shortest season. Not very realistic to real life. Winter goes on forever. And these cards that you're going to be flipping, and everyone's going to be drawing onto their maps, they're going to give you choices of things that you then have to draw somewhere on your map. So I got fishing village, which means I can do houses or water. It has to be 4 in a row. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to draw on some lovely little waves. Ah, the sea. Why are you going to be doing any of this? Well, there's going to be 4 communal objectives which you're going to be working towards throughout the game. And in the first round, in spring, you're going to score A and B, then B and C, before you eventually come around to winter, in which you score D and once more A. Now, the beautiful thing about this is you don't end the game with this horrific crunch while you're trying to do all 4 of these things at once and having a brain meltdown. As soon as you've gone past B, doesn't matter. Forget about doing things with spaces. You're not going to get points for it ever again. And that seems bad, but it's good. You can forget about it. Now, these 4 objectives come from a deck, and that's the place where you're going to find the most variety in the game, which is a bit of a complaint from me, frankly, because most of the variety comes from a place where the game is most thematically thin and uninteresting. Even the text at the bottom of the cards, which tells you what they actually do, is very, very small, which is kind of a worst case scenario on both regards. No nice art, but also not clear text. It's not the end of the world, but it's also not ideal. But don't worry, because we've got monsters and also ruins and coins. So really everything we need for a good night out on the town. Monsters, first of all, are a lot of fun in the fact that you got only 4 of them. See, there could have been more of them than that. But the way these work is you're going to be adding 1 each round to the deck of cards that get drawn normally. When they come up, you actually pass your sheet to the person next to you, and they are going to draw that monster on your map in a place that they believe to be the most irritating. Any spaces surrounding a monster at the end of the turn are going to lose you negative points, so you want to kind of enclose them as best you can in towns and nice lakes and forests, as I guess a means of integrating the kobolds into society and making them feel welcome, which is probably not a bad approach to crime and punishment. The other thing is coins. Now, coins, when you completely orthogonally surround a mountain, do this, you get to cross off a coin. This box is just loving life horizontal today. Every time you get a coin at the end of that round, and from every round until the game ends, which will happen sooner than you think, you're going to get an extra bonus point. Finally, ruins. Every time a ruins card is drawn from the deck, you draw another card, and then whatever that is has to be placed on one of the little ruin spaces on your sheet, which is just annoying in a gentle way that's also quite nice and satisfying. And also it's worth pointing out that the whole system with monsters, there is a solo variant in the game here in which a little bit in the corner of the card tells you which quadrant it has to go into, and players can place it themselves. That's made for the single player game, but obviously if you're trying to play roll and writes while socially distancing, arguably they're some of the best types of games to do so with, then that's cool. This game is fast, super simple, and with a lot of space here for fun, idle doodling in between rounds. I like it a lot. And you know, while I really adore the sharp, neat, nasty edges of Metro X, a game which Tom will be reviewing later in this video, and I think enjoys slightly less than I do, because I've got a lot of time for this. I might even like it more than Railroad Inc., just because I'm a sucker for terrible, awful underground systems. The reason I love Cartographers, and the reason I think it's one of my favourites, is because it's just so breezy. The fact that, yeah, you're crunching to try and do the absolute best you can with a randomised setup of things, and then you just forget about it. The fact that objectives are just gone. They're meaningless now. You're never going to think about that ever again. That's gone. That's gone. It's like a knot in your back just suddenly gets worked out into a shrug. So if you like your roll and write to have a little more bite, then I would hold off on this for now. They're doing some standalone expansion stuff and some mini things that add a bit of flavour, add a bit of crunch. I don't really understand or know what the business model is going to be like for that. We're going to have to see how it shakes out. It might be really cool. It might not be. Time will tell. But if you like something basic and simple and chill, nice little pencils, nice little maps, then I really like Cartographers. It's a lovely little addition to my roll and write collection. And now I'm going to pass over to Quinn's for a review of Kingdomino Duel, a game which I personally think lacks all of the charm of Kingdomino, which is a wonderful game, and hinges on an element of competitive interaction that I think doesn't really work and is damp and at best a gimmick. Turns out when I have to compress my thoughts about a game down to a very short amount of time, I'm quite mean. Quinn's!
Fun fact, I don't actually like Cartographers very much. For me, the fact that that game's random generator is a deck of unique cards meant I didn't know the probability of anything, which meant, for me, half the game was dead on arrival. But there's no time to decide who's right and wrong. That's what internet comments are for. Let's talk about Kingdomino Duel. Just like the Copenhagen roll and write, Kingdomino Duel is a miniature spin-off, this time from the Kingdomino series of family games, which are nice but too simple for my taste. But this little fellow? Quinty likey. Yeah, let's add that one to the list. Kingdomino Duel stands out in that it's a roll and write specifically for just 2 players, in a genre defined by a lack of player interaction to the point that your friend could leave mid-game and you might not notice. Kingdomino Duel lets you play together with someone. Sort of, kind of, a little bit. Fancy that! Each round, these 4 dice are rolled. Someone drafts 1, the next player takes 2 and leaves the other to the player who took the first. And then you've got your dominoes, which you get to add to your map or possibly just try and fit in while causing as little damage as possible. Dominoes have to either touch your central castle or at least one end has to touch a matching symbol. If your domino has crosses, add them too, and then at the end of the game you figure out your score by multiplying each area of symbols by the number of crosses on those shields. But hold on to your pants, because each dice you draft that does not have a cross on it lets you make a notch on that line of your side of the wizard's spell book. And whichever player reaches that spell first takes it and denies it to their opponent forever, letting you perform forbidden domino techniques like splitting dominoes. Of course, the last time that mankind tried to split a domino in real life, it resulted in the destruction of Doncaster. But since the dominoes in this game are only figurative, I think you've got a pretty good chance of coming through this game still alive. Look, it makes sense to me that Matt does not like this game. The best thing about Kingdomino and Queen Domino and whatever the expansion was called, Indentured Servant Domino, was that those games were cute. And this isn't cute. But my problem with the original Kingdomino was that it wasn't tactical enough. And this is. Yeah, it's not particularly surprising. It's not colourful. It's not story-rich. And in that respect, it reminds me of the also pretty great The Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, which confusingly was actually the roll and write. Look, I don't have to defend myself to you. This is still a free country for now. I think this box is just a neat little conveyor belt that is constantly running off good, cute little decisions for you. Because it's only a 2-player game and both players are both playing every turn, you're constantly just bouncing forth between drafting dice and then placing dice, then drafting dice and placing the dice. It's fast, it's tough. What do you want? What do you want? It's got magnets. Do you like magnets? The box has 2 magnets and it does this. So that's perfect for all you astronauts who are always leaving comments saying that your box lids are floating away. Ah, crap. Maybe Matt's right. Maybe this is boring, but I do think it's good. Anyway, I'm sure we've saved something truly scintillating and exciting for our final game on this list. Tom will save us. Tom, save us.
Trains. They're the board game world's 18th favourite theme, but rather than putting us behind sun-speckled windows with beautiful leafy trees rushing past, Metro X is content to put us in the dark and grimy underground, full of commuters, rats, and commuting rats. But don't worry, this layer of grime and grit is hidden under a deliriously clean aesthetic, so much so that I wonder if it's designed by the same underground eulogizing weirdos that made phone game classic Mini Metro. Tell us, Tom, how does this one work? Well, it starts by rolling a card and putting the number on it into one of these boxes, and then ticking off that many spaces on the route it's connected to. For example, here I have just rolled a 4, which means I can put a 4 in this box and cross off 1, 2, 3, 4 little dots on that route, which is great. That means that I'm nearly done. I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more spaces, so I just need to put a 7 in that box. But the numbers only go up to 6, and oh dear, oh dear. This fellow just committed his very first train crime. But don't worry, there are plenty more to come. Metro X is a system that is rife with bad decisions and horrible consequences rattling towards you at frightening speeds. Let's see how this young man continues to goof it. Let's say the board looks like this and you just pulled a 3. You want to fill in the green line because you've only got 3 open spaces on that line and you've got 1 open box left. Easy, easy points. Whoa, that's another train crime from me, and this one gets a 0 out of 10. This clown clearly didn't read the section in the rulebook that says that if you reach an already filled station, you gotta stop your route there and then, matey. Let's talk about transfers, the final part of Metro X's slippery puzzle. These have you putting an X in the window of the route that you are putting them on, and then writing a number in that first available box equal to 2 times the number of routes that intersect that station. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4 routes for 8 lovely points at the end of the game. Do I need to say more? This clueless buffoon thinks he'll score mega points from having a huge transfer station thing that'll fill up every route and score him some points. But no, it's gonna score him like nothing, because he's gonna have to put it in a place that's useless. And that's rubbish. And such is the slippery serpentine layout of Metro X, a game that traps you with an ease of rules before crushing you under an avalanche of fine, powdery consequences. There are ways of getting around the draconian regulations laid out by this game. The skip cards let you plonk down stations even if there's interrupting ones, and the free card lets you pop a station down at the end of a line if you need to fill in a pesky little space, but there's only one of them, so you can't count on it. But let me roll my cards onto the table here. Metro X is probably on the weaker end of the spectrum in terms of roll and writes on this list. It's still a lovely puzzle, but I think it survives fewer plays, and part of that might be to do with the lovely, if cold, presentation that's great the first time, but its simple numbers-based appearance means that deviations in strategy don't seem as immediate or as exciting as they would be in a game a little more visual. Honestly, I'm finding it kind of hard to pin down why exactly I'm lukewarm on this box. And I think it might just come down to a lack of mechanics that make you go, ooh. It's very frictionless, it's very simple, and it's good, but I don't think it's great. What it is great at, though, is being a solid intro to the genre because the teach is just ultra smooth. You can do it in 1 hot minute. But ultimately, your mileage with this thing will be entirely dependent on how much you enjoy the noise that your friends make when things aren't going so well for them. It's a lovely game to show to people, but I don't know if it's a solid addition to the roll and write canon. It's good. It's not great. It's good. It's very good. I like it and it's good, but it's not great, it's good.
That's great, Tom, but it's not your favourite? The name of the video is your favourite, so if you could just maybe review something. A fine move, Tom. If you enjoyed this video, we've got another one. Well, we've got loads actually, but we have one on our 5 favourite new card games, so you can give that a little clickety-click, or this is the video that YouTube thinks you should watch. YouTube is judging you. Why don't you judge YouTube right back by picking which of these 2 things, that's not a bad link actually, which of these 2 things you want to watch? Thank you very much for watching the video, everybody.